Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
Welcome to the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing great, Kalen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. So, episode 2.
I know.
Of our new season?
Season 4.
Season 4, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. On our YouTube channel, I think it just all blends in together.
It looks like we have so many episodes. I guess we do
think
now.
we have over
We do.
70 some odd episodes now.
Wow. They
Maybe
call that
close to 80.
a catalog.
We got a catalog of nonsense.
It's absolute
Jibber
nonsense.
jabber.
However,
I think there's some good stuff in there.
there is. Well, we've got great guests, great topics that we talk about, and this season we're kicking it off with a whole bunch of guests. Well, one in particular who's here today.
Yes,
I know. Second show, first guest.
First guest of our 4th season. Solomon Siegel, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
nice
and
to see you,
Solomon is the proprietor of Pagliacci's.
Yep. Simon G, but you're pretty close.
Yeah.
Pagliacci,
Pagliacci.
the clown,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The clown.
Yeah, you know.
Of course, I butcher it, but I'm a cracker, as they say.
And Pagliacci's has pretty much been like the staple Italian restaurant in Victoria for 45. You're in your 45th year right now, right?
This weekend is going to be our 45th anniversary.
Oh my
I'm putting on
goodness.
a massive free concert this Saturday with bands from 4 to 10. Terry David Mulligan's going to be our MC.
Oh my
The Bills
goodness.
are going to be playing. Sorry?
TDM is
Terry David
Mulligan is going to be our MC. Yeah.
That's
So-
crazy.
That
Yeah.
is crazy.
So yeah, and the Bills, who a lot of people love,
Yeah.
are going to be our headlining act. And,
Awesome.
and,
When is that going? That's
The 24th,
weekend.
this Saturday.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Okay.
I don't know how we're gonna get that out, but we'll have to get that out somehow.
I guess
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah,
will
social
play a
media.
big part in
Yeah.
that.
Because this won't be aired till next week.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, there can be enough people there.
Yeah.
I mean, having all those musicians, because I saw the lineup and it's pretty impressive. There's a deep lineup playing, and you guys are a restaurant, but you're also a live music venue, and you're one of the oldest live music venues that's continuously played music in Canada, perhaps.
Well, for 45 years, and I've spent, a fair amount of time on Google trying to find a place that's continuously had, live music for free for 45 years in Canada, and I can't find anybody else. So until I do, I guess I get to claim to be the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest
Until they
Kalen.
stand up.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest Kalen because I've never met a Kalen older than
That's true. That's fair. Yeah, that's
Really?
how it works. Yeah.
But I think that's for local nostalgia, and I've obviously every single person that I know has dined at Pagliacci, and your father is well known. Howie Siegel.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see the generational change. Not in the way of good to see Howie out and you in, but just
He's
carrying
still-
on. Like you can't have a business success that goes 45 years without having some family lineage. How has it been working in the family business now that you're back in the family business?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in a long time now, but we'll go through your resume as far as your history goes, right?
Well, it's always, families. Family's always a challenging thing. There's, it's you love each other, you hate each other, you have those headbutting moments, and where you
Philosophical differences.
or just frustrations, or the older generation can't see the younger generation grown up. You're always a kid.
Yeah.
But ultimately, my uncle passed away. And
that was David, right?
Yeah. So several years ago, and he taught me so much about. He really understood the back end of the restaurant and how to the financial side of things, and I learned so much from him, passing that mantle forward to me. And my father, luckily, is still around, and there's no one better at hospitality than him in the world.
Yeah, he is
And,
literally the best.
Yeah, and he's masterful at that, and but he really, after these 10 years, my uncle and him, over the course of me taking over the restaurant, started to see what I was doing and really just got behind me. And
Amazing.
And I now I have struggle sometimes with my father because I'll go, hey, what do you think about this? And he'll go, well, you know how to run this best restaurant better than I ever could. And I go, I'm like, no, I actually want your opinion. I want your input here. I'm not just asking you to placate you. I want to know what you think.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, well, you just do whatever you think is right. And I'm like,
that's not the answer I'm looking for.
He's passing over too much.
Yeah. So
like he's giving you the baton and the baton maker all at the same time.
When he gave you the baton, did it come with him still being there for a while, or was it a clean pass off and you just took over, or was there a period where there was some overlap?
It was interesting because my uncle had stopped working in the restaurant, and he just did a bit of oversight. We had general managers. My dad would come in and do his thing for years, but he didn't have regular shifts or a job.
Okay.
There. Like they had management running the place, and
so I assume they would look at numbers and just okay, we're making money or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had certain staff members, like our chef Suk has been with us. Since 1980.
What? Oh my goodness.
And our head server Chris Samard has been with us since 1982.
And you guys have been open since 1979.
That's correct. Yeah.
So been there since day one almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Suk has been there longer than I have.
Yeah,
because I was born in 81. I was born in 81.
Yeah, wow.
So it's
that Suk's amazing too.
Yeah. So there has been some like a strong level of tradition through those guys who kept kind of the home fires burning. And but then about 10 years ago, my dad came to me. I was bartending at another place with head bartender. My dad went, "Hey, we're looking for a new general manager to run the restaurant. Do you know anybody?" And I quit the job that I was at. I didn't like the GM that was there, and I was like, I couldn't work with him, and I left that job. So I was unemployed. And he, do you know anybody who knows how to run a restaurant? I'm like, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I'm currently unemployed.
Are you hinting, or
was that dynamic between you and your dad? Like, did he not want to put you in the family business, or want you in the family business, or just understood that you couldn't maintain a parental son relationship while you were working with him? Or what was what do you think the methodology behind him not seeing you as a possible candidate to do it? He
denies that story.
Of course.
Okay. But my memory's better than his.
Yeah.
And there was, I was hot-headed as a kid, because I grew up, I started working, when I was 12 beside my dad, and I was working at Pagliacci's until my early 20s. And my dad's old school style of demanding things and ordering people around and stuff, didn't look good on a kid. So coming in and using, berating people and demanding they do things your way and that kind of, and that kind of using anger and yelling and stuff like that. It's certainly, I don't think it's the way anybody should run a restaurant, and certainly not the way I should.
Yeah.
And
it's a very old school way of doing it.
And was that how he approached the restaurant? Did he bring that sense of New York tension to the workplace?
He's a believer in chaos, So he's learned a lot. I'm not here to bash him.
No, but that's what it took in those days. Because I think that Peter Zambri too. The same thing is their style does not work in the. I should be careful what I say.
Yeah,
the style doesn't work in this. Like we've progressed to the point where it's not necessary to beat that culture. Doesn't create positivity. Doesn't create sales. Doesn't create the things that used to create back in the day, because just different period, different time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and he always did it with there's always be the work incredibly hard at the end of the shift. It's just here's some extra money. Yeah. We and
you beat them down and then try to build them back up.
Well,
you did a good job, Johnny.
He didn't have staff who've stayed with him for 40 years.
Totally.
I was going to ask you about your retention there.
Yeah, you don't have staff like that without breeding some of that loyalty.
Yeah.
And there's certainly there'll be some staff members around who didn't get along with them, and
Yeah.
you know, everyone's got their story of you know getting overwhelmed and like but it's always been a crazy frenetic place, and not an easy. Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
You know, like this is not white glove, 6 feet of elbow room.
Yeah.
kinda
But
like
even as
space.
a customer, I kind of appreciate that because it harkens back to not a different. It does. It harkens back to a different time and a different style of restaurant, and I actually like that grit and the chaos and I like that, and I can see how it's problematic these days for some, but I still think it produces results depending on the results you're looking for. I mean, it's going to produce an atmosphere and some character in your restaurant that's not going to be able to be copied very easily. That's for sure.
I think there's ways to do it in a positive way, and I know my dad's done a lot of work learning that stuff.
Yeah.
and certainly the way it is right now, like I have the best team the restaurant's ever had.
Yeah.
You know, Josh Miller is my GM, and
Josh is great.
Yeah, and he's put together really just an amazing group of people, and I couldn't ask for a better GM because we grew up working. When I was 12 and working, coming on Sundays and pouring coffee and bussing tables, you know, he was working on the floor beside me and training me.
That's crazy.
And you know, like, because he's just and we got so used to people asking if we were brothers that we just started telling people we were brothers.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, I used to use his ID to buy beer. You know, like,
You just steal it from the back of the restaurant?
Yeah, well, there was that too. But so he's always been like an older brother to me in a lot of ways, and so is Suk and Chris. You know, these guys, like, I grew up.
But you grew up with them. Well, you're a baby growing up in that world.
So you know, they have my back, and they're my family, and you know, and we get through any tensions like that, and I take care of them. They take care of me. There is, you know, sometimes that like family kind of like rhetoric that bosses give you can be BS, but you know, there is an organic family nature to my staff.
Well, I think any successful business, that's the magic, is that brings everybody together. And sometimes you get through it through the battles, and the ones that are left standing are the ones that are your core people that get it. And I think there's, in this industry, if you're doing it right, you've got the passion. And the only way the industry unfortunately gives you so little in regard to remuneration, and you're always fighting for every penny you've got. You have to get it from somewhere else. And if you don't breed that sort of collective family, you know, we're in it together, you're in the trenches together, and that's where you get the juice. And I think those restaurants and businesses that can survive 45 years, and Zambri's is 22, or are we 20 years? 20? I don't know. Oh my God.
Probably 25.
We're 25 years this year. How horrible.
Oh, almost forgot your
my birthday.
quarter. Yeah.
But, you know, and it's the same thing there. It's passion.
Yes.
You know, and that's what keeps the customers coming back. That's what keeps certain people there. And not everybody, you get too close to the fire. Not everybody can work in that environment.
Yeah.
So I imagine in your world too, there's been, you know, you're dealing with passionate people.
Yeah.
So there's going to be fireworks.
But getting back to, like, you know, we went on some tangents there, but like coming in the restaurant, my dad and my uncle, they went, okay, we're going to give you the reins. They were a bit nervous because, you know, but they said, here's the one mandate. You have to get along with Suk and Chris and make sure they're happy. Like, you
love
like,
that.
yeah,
Smart.
They've been there the whole time. You can't come in and
rock
their boat and make them miserable because you want to change this, that, and the other thing. That was it. It wasn't like there was no sales figures I had to meet. There was no
targets. Keep your people happy.
Yeah, it was, you know, these people have been with us for a long time. You must get along with them. Period.
Oh, I love it.
And that was my mandate going in, and they're smart guys, my dad and my uncle, with that, and it really, and I had done so much work on myself by that point, and you know, even more so now, but going in and realizing that, and because I'd run other places, I had my own place, I'd done different things, so I had more of my own style, and I could go in there and learn to work with people instead of just trying to order people around.
Yeah. So
And-
you matured to the point where you could accept that challenge from your uncle and your dad, as far as,
Yeah.
these are important people, work with them.
Yeah. And then when they started to see the results and Suk and Chris were happy with me, and, the changes I started to make were not changing the nature of what Pagliacci's is.
Yeah.
It was, I often put it like, no one was coming to Pagliacci's because we had a bad wine list.
Yeah.
That wasn't the attractive thing bringing people in.
Yeah.
It was, so like putting in a better wine list was not going to drive away
Yeah.
any
Exactly.
guests. So I just tried to just be very careful, because when you have a place that old, people are so invested in their favorite dishes. So when they started to see the changes that I would make were respecting our guests and respecting the staff, then they really got behind me. And actually my uncle got more involved in the restaurant because he started really enjoying it.
Yes.
Because he felt like I was doing a good job.
Yeah.
So he, before I took over, he didn't like coming in for dinner.
Yeah.
Because it felt too stressful for him.
Yeah. He
Well,
saw
it was
things he
more-
didn't like, and he's just like,
He was a lot closer
yeah.
to it than when he handed it off to you, right?
Yeah, and he didn't want to and when I started off, he was like, "Oh, you can only once a month. I don't want to hear how we're doing midweek. Once a month, you give me the financial reports. That's it, and then we'll talk about them. And then I want to hear about it. And then it became where we'd talk every day about how business was and planning and everything, and it was really it was wonderful. I got to have a really beautiful. This was leading up to then he got liver cancer and stuff. But I had a really beautiful relationship with him that was
amazing.
Yeah, which I did I've always had a good relationship with him before, but it created this other level where we really got to work.
What a
on
gift! We talk about business, but what
Yeah.
a gift that you got time to spend with your uncle.
Yeah.
And then he, even in a business that he created, near the end, he was involved in a way that he probably hadn't been in a number of years.
Mhm.
And he's doing it with his nephew, who he loves, and wow, what a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
He was so happy about it, as was I,
Yeah.
Who was the other founder?
So Alan DiFiore was the other founder. If you've ever heard of the TV show Da Vinci's Inquest,
Oh.
he was the head writer on that.
Oh,
he wrote the
interesting.
movie Money Monster.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Julia Roberts and George Clooney. So So my dad was born in Brooklyn. My dad and my uncle born in Brooklyn, raised in LA, and my dad was living in Venice Beach. As a hippie, friends with Alan DiFiore. Alan at one point said, "Hey, I'm going to go to this island called Lasqueti Island up in Canada and like build a house and stuff." And my dad went, "Okay," and they moved up to Lasqueti and built houses. My dad was working as a herring fisherman and a buyer, and then at some point Alan went, I'm going to go to Victoria, and I've heard different versions of the story, but from them going out and trying to find a piece of cheesecake after a movie one night, and all these different versions, and but Alan said, I want to open up an Italian restaurant, and you want to come be my partner, and my dad went, all right. And his joke is always he just dreamed of one day being able to afford to eat in restaurant.
Not let alone owning one.
That's hilarious.
And my uncle he was in LA, and I think he had just finished. He was the backstage manager of the original production of Hair in LA. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he was ready to get out, and he was like, "Can I come?" And so he asked my dad, "Can I come work for you?" And my dad said, "No, you'll be my partner." So my dad split his share with my uncle.
Oh, amazing.
And they came up and they bought this, place that sold stale cucumber sandwiches to, the English kind of thing called the Red Swing. And they bought this restaurant and, opened up for lunch and then quickly started opening up for dinner. And Alan's family, his mother, Mary DiFiore, from the Abruzzo region, she had these recipes for the tomato sauce and the focaccia bread and the cheesecake, and the meatballs that we still use.
Wow, they're still original recipes.
They're still they're still because Suk worked with her, right? When he started off, because he started as a dishwasher, like when he was a kid.
That's so incredible.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we have we have several multi-generational employees. But yeah, so Alan came in, and then Alan, I think it was around 5 years or so, he was like, well, it's time to sell this restaurant, because it was very successful. There's nothing like it in Victoria. Really, I think the Herald Street Cafe opened up shortly after, and it was the only real competition out there of like.
Yeah, it was a different world.
It was a different. There was very little. We actually had the very first espresso machine in Victoria.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know one person who will dispute that, but I think I believe you.
Yeah, there is. I've heard also there was another one in town, but it wasn't working.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, that's one story I've heard too. But and no one had like a baked cheesecake. Like that's why my dad called it New York cheesecake to differentiate it from the thing that was being sold and called cheesecake here. Which did not compute to him as cheesecake.
Yeah.
So those were like and Sundays we had live music, and then Sundays we were serving alcohol, which didn't happen in Victoria at that time.
Yeah,
Really?
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know. Like up until probably the 70s, you couldn't even sell alcohol on Sundays. I don't think.
Yeah, and
Really?
then
Did the liquor law change in the mid '80s or something?
there's been a few changes, but
Yeah.
I know there was. I mean, all growing up, it was the last call on Sundays was midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember that it was just Sundays was midnight everywhere.
Yeah.
Every other night was 2, but like Sundays was midnight.
They wanted people at work on Monday. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know why that and these funny things, but all the pubs and the bars and stuff are closed on Sunday. But as a restaurant, you could be open, and you could stay open till midnight and have live music and serve wine, and so it was the hot spot really, and really kind of blew up that way. My dad and uncle were like didn't want to leave the restaurant. They wanted to keep running it.
Yeah.
So they bought Alan out, and my dad's still good friends with Alan. He's going to be in town for the 45th anniversary.
Oh, how cool!
Yeah, so he's going to come and visit, and so it'd be good to hear some stories from him about his version of events.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, there are rumors about, and I think they're wrong, but maybe you can clarify this on tape, that your dad moved to Lasqueti because he was a draft dodger, but that's not true, is it?
No,
just
my
maybe
dad,
a failed comic.
It was among other
Maybe
things.
an up and coming comic.
Yeah. Well, I guess he told me
His
the story.
Comedy's gold. We failed.
I mean,
It took him a long time to get around to it. He last time he was on stage doing stand up, he killed. But I think
He's
around that time, I think he did go up on stage, and I don't think he's so naturally good at that he didn't get that everybody else was preparing material.
Yeah. He's like, what?
Yeah,
What?
and Lenny Bruce's mother heckled him off the stage.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but no, he'd been in the reserves.
Okay.
So he'd done so he was not eligible for the draft.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
so he
Well,
wasn't
that's-
eligible for the draft, and he very well might have been a draft dodger given the chance.
Yeah. That doesn't mean he wouldn't have draft dodged.
But he wasn't eligible. So yeah.
I think that's also a byproduct of Lasqueti, because there apparently was a lot of draft dodgers that escaped to Lasqueti.
Yeah.
And there's a whole culture.
He got caught up in
Lasqueti.
the fake news of the day.
And part of that culture moved to Victoria and opened up restaurants. Like I'm thinking Audrey Elsterberg is another Lasqueti Islander from the States who came down to Victoria. I mean, it was after you guys did, obviously.
A lot of that was people who passed through kind of Pagliacci's and
connections
with my dad. Like there was like Peter Prusa was a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's had an amazing career.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Opening, Floyd's and all sorts of. He seems to buy and sell restaurants faster than I can think. So we've had it, and Josh went and opened up his own place. I opened up my place. There's been a huge amount of people who've come through Pagliacci's who've gone on to
make an impact in the industry in Victoria,
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you've been around, with your bartending and all of those things. You did a little stint as a paramedic.
I spent 3 years as a paramedic.
Yeah.
I tried to get out of the business. Yeah.
Like when you're deciding what path, like obviously the easy path growing up in a family business or family sort of trajectory is to stay in the family business. So you obviously had your experience coming from the restaurant, growing up in it, and did a lot of stuff in the industry. What made you get out of it? Like, were you just like, okay, I'm tired with the late hours, I want to distance myself from my dad? Like, what was your thinking to get into paramedics? Maybe it's not even anything like that.
Maybe you just love helping people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it. My family would joke is that I treated everything like life and death anyway. So might as well be like that.
They'll put a siren and get you in a vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it definitely kind of lined up with some of my personality stuff. But I had, had a fiery temper as a young man, and I would butt heads with my dad, and we'd get in screaming matches, and I'd storm out of the restaurant, or he'd fire me, and and I needed to get away from that. I needed to go do something different with my life and not just stay. And I came back to it because I wanted to, and because
which is the right reason.
It's the right reason.
Yeah.
So so I left. I worked for a little time for Ryan and Christy at Cafe Fantastico.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was because I grew up. We even had we had an old lever espresso machine in our house growing up.
Oh wow!
So when I was like 10, I'd make one of my jobs was making my dad a cappuccino in the morning. So but no one taught me anything. And I at the time when Ryan and Christy were kind of like really bringing in that first wave of good coffee, which you extended, and my brother-in-law and everybody, but so I kind of went, they can make a better cappuccino than me there. So I wanted to go work there because I was like, well, they can do it better than me.
Yeah.
So that's who I want to go. So I went and did that while I was, and then I decided I wanted to be a paramedic. I think I wanted to help people, and I didn't get how incredibly helpful hospitality can be to people's lives.
Oh, amazing. And that's such a good point.
Yeah. And in my head, I was like, well, I want to do something more meaningful.
Yeah.
And that has a bigger impact than just, serving someone a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and making a difference in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a real way, I guess, would be an assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is an assumption, right? Because you're right. It does have a severe impact. Like we have an impact on people's lives every day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in every interaction. Yeah. And particularly at the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's maybe what attracted you to it, is making a difference in their lives, right?
Yeah. And I think what happened to me, well, there was a couple things. There's one is I didn't, the dynamic between the union and the government employer was like, made it difficult to try and make a living with all their silliness. And then I was going to have to go work in Vancouver. And at the time I didn't feel like moving to Vancouver if I wanted to go full time. And I kind of had this feeling of like, sometimes I'd show up to someone who was having a bad day, and I'd move them, I'd kind of make them as comfortable as possible, get them to the hospital and do my thing. And then they would continue having a bad day.
Yeah.
And
it was too little of a light.
And I was good at the job, and I was, present for people, and there, but I didn't feel like I was actually often having that much of an impact on people.
Yeah.
Because yes, I was transportation and some medical care, but I don't feel like I redirected anything.
Yeah.
But in the hospitality world, I remember having moments of like serving someone a cup of coffee in the morning, and where they would be in this autopilot, go to the vending machine and get a cup of coffee mode. And I would be able to coax them out of that, put the coffee in, not make eye contact and not think of you as a person, and, and play with them enough that they would come out of that and interact with me as two human beings.
Yeah.
And I could feel that would shift the course of their day.
Absolutely.
And I believe that then they're going to go and treat other people with that same sense of humanity from that. And I went, sometimes I feel, and I kind of went, wow, I can have a massive impact on the world and other people just by giving loving, caring interactions with other human beings in simple things.
That sums up hospitality in its essence.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's a great.
When you're really in the industry for that purpose.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got their motivation, especially if you're working in it. Like, obviously, I got to pay my bills and I want to get tips and I'm going to act nice. But building that culture of permanent hospitality and understanding why you're making a difference in people's lives. If you think of how many points throughout the day that you have an opportunity to make someone smile or give comfort or just have a really wholesome interaction, it's few and far between. You know, you've got your coffee shops, you've got your restaurants, you know, and you've got your work. Like, those are the three places. So having control over someone's day and taking it as seriously as you talked about is making the point of contact. You can make their day completely different. Turn it from a frown to a smile.
Well, and you can do that especially in coffee because you're quite often the first person that
First interaction
these
to have of the
people
day.
are talking to in the day, right?
Yeah.
Stumble down and get in their car, come to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
You're the first interaction.
Yeah.
And you truly can make or break their day. Or you can make it. I don't know if you can break it because if they're coming in all nasty anyway, they're going down.
Well,
that
you're just
path.
going
maybe
to
not.
You're just going to make it better.
Yeah, they'll be like,
Yeah.
I am pissed off. This guy's
I'm
pissed
pissed
off.
off.
We're all
Yeah.
pissed off. I love it.
But and even down to, you know, I often think that, like, you know, we can get obsessed with quality of product, and, you know, I think we're all people who love product. You know, like the amount of energy you put into thinking about this blend of coffee and and sourcing beans and roasting and every aspect of and brewing and stuff like that. That, let's say 90% of people who order a cup of coffee don't really care about.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's
Or
like
don't
the
even
difference.
think about.
Yeah.
Or don't even know what they're appreciating, or it's not even important.
It may not even make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But what can come across is the level that you care.
Yes.
And, you know, when I was bartending, the amount of times someone told me this is the best cocktail I've ever had in my life
Yeah.
did not match up with the reality of if that being possible.
Yeah, were you
Yeah,
weighing?
yeah.
Were you weighing everything and like?
Yeah, sure. But what they saw was every time I'd make a drink is I would have an incredible attention to detail and tasting and how I presented
The
it.
art of it.
And that my mindset was involved in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the same thing can be done with, I mean, latte art doesn't, you know, arguably doesn't really have any effect on the flavor of that drink. Or, like, you can have a great, you know, cappuccino if you get the milk right. Doesn't have to have the art, but the art conveys a level of dedication and care.
Yeah.
And then when you're kind of presenting somebody with this product that they pick up, not on necessarily the, you know, what kind of the origins of the three different coffees in this coffee, but they pick up on your attitude about it, which is that, like, I love this. I'm giving you something I feel really proud of and good.
Yeah.
And then that is usually non-verbally picked up on by who you're serving. And then they feel like, oh, you're giving me something you care about.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
What a
that's
great,
heavy, right?
that is such a great, it's probably one of the better analysis of the idea of putting everything into what you're doing and doing it right and the benefits of that. So 90, you know, you might have the person head down, just taking the coffee, not appreciating the detail of it, but it doesn't stop you from doing the same motions each time because it's the motions and the you know, strive for perfection that brings the professionalist in coffee making, serving, you know, like, people, I think, tend to have this impression of service industry being, oh, you're just doing it and you make good tips and it's going to be what you do for the next, you might do it for 2 years and then you're going to go to your career. It's a bridge.
Right.
But when you have professionals, like, and this is a throwback to the old school, like, even when you talk about your dad and, you know, kind of the way you're, you know, throwing pans and yelling at people and all this kind of, you know, culture that was, you know, predominant in the restaurant industry back in the day, transform into now, like, that level of professionalism, because then that was the professional way. Now it's just putting all of that creativity and that professionalism into what you're doing. And when people see that, if they're looking, that's where the appreciation comes.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't, it transcends everything. It's what you do in your day to day. It's what you do in your day to day. It's what we try to do at Big Will Burger and at Zambri's is try to, forget the noise and just remember that what we're doing is we're not only providing a service and trying to make some money, we're trying to be professionals. We're trying to deliver. And when you deliver it, there's nothing better. And that's why, you're going to be celebrating your 45th anniversary this Saturday.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
I always heard from Greg Hayes, and this makes me think of your dad and Pagliacci's as a whole. Every time I hear it, is like hospitality is you're treating people like you're welcoming them into your own house.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And you put the kind of care and effort into what you're going to serve them, as if it's from your own kitchen on your own plates, and you're having people into your home, and that's hospitality. And I see that so much in Pagliacci. It really feels that way.
Well, one thing that I really that comes from my father, and that I really try and convey to like my hosts, is if your friend shows up at the door unannounced, you don't wander over the door and be like, I'm really busy right now. You're just gonna have to wait outside for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't like look around and then don't pay any attention to them until you or walk past them while they're standing at the door because you're not ready.
Yeah.
That's not how you treat people.
Yeah.
There's someone waiting at the door. You greet them from across the room.
Yeah.
You look at them in the eye, smile, wave at them, yell hello, whatever. And then who cares if the table isn't set yet?
Yeah.
Who cares? That's not a don't get the menus out first.
And
don't get everything sure. There's a style of that. There's a style of like, okay, you're going to make a reservation and we're going to have everything ready for you. The dinner
everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah,
and we'll leave you waiting in an awkward spot.
I can go out and enjoy that.
Yeah,
but I don't want that as my daily.
Yeah,
I want the warmth of like.
You may go there once every 6 months versus once a week or once a month.
Yeah, right? Come on in. There's extra people. Squeeze another chair.
Yeah.
We don't have a chair. We got milk crates.
Yeah, exactly. Sit on a milk crate. Whatever. Just join. Squeeze in. Join the party. Get to know each other. Pour some more wine and let's just go with it. And so what if you're a bit squished or get bumped or something? It's welcome people and bring them in.
Acceptance. And belonging too, right?
The way that my family was brought up, through my grandmother, my bubby, was so when I was a kid, I'd go to LA and go visit her, and be sitting up as a teenager, watching TV, and she'd come out of her room and go, "Can I make you something to eat?" And I'd go, I'm fine. I don't need anything to eat shit. Okay. And she'd go through everything in the fridge that I could get if I was hungry. And then ask me again if she's sure I couldn't make her a sandwich. I'd be, no, I'm good. Go to sleep. I'm fine. And then an hour would go by and she'd get out of bed, come out and see if I wanted to eat again. Because that was, that was her way of loving me.
Yeah.
No, I walk in the house for the first time. Can I make you something to eat? Excuse me. Sorry. You need a cough button.
No, you're good.
And that is, that act of like, let me give you food. And in a certain way, it's why I think it's so important that we put down free bread. I would say that we might be the only restaurant in the world that our most famous dish, our bread, is one we don't charge for.
Yeah.
And I've seen that come out, like Staples of Victoria, where they'll put our bread, and we're the only one on the list for that. It's a free product that we just give to people immediately when they sit down.
Yeah.
And people go nuts for the bread, and it's an odd thing to me because I think even the name of your podcast, Bread and Butter, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like that's
it's a
staple.
thing,
that's a staple, and it's like. We're not charging you for it. We're not gonna this is because you're a human being. You're in my restaurant.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Here's some bread.
It's like a basket of love.
Yeah.
This is how you're showing
and
that you love and care.
Yeah. You don't need to do anything for this. You don't need to pay me. It's just I'm welcoming you into my space and you're welcome here. Here's some bread. Here's a glass of water.
When they're done with their bread, can they leave?
They can leave.
Sam trying to game the system.
no,
Yeah, we're not going to run after anybody.
Yeah.
I already got.
I don't like anything on the menu.
I
You want
already
it to go,
figured
we
out how
charge
to
you.
back your breakfast
Yeah,
sandwich.
yeah.
Now I'm working on yours.
Yeah, you're gonna go in there, order the bread, bring an egg.
Yeah.
Bring
that,
that.
yeah.
I'm out.
Sure. Yeah. We never let anybody go away hungry.
No,
But that's
right.
that's about the hospitality, and it's those attention to details that
Yeah.
allow a business like yours to survive 45 years.
Yeah.
And multi-generational, which is in our businesses we don't have any children, so
You've got my children.
Well, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you're
You've got mine.
That's right.
Maybe my children can take over your
Yeah,
business.
there we go. Yeah.
Because they're not going to take
Other
over mine.
people's children that'll take over a business.
Yeah.
But to have that multi-generational, because there's so much dynamics that go on in the family, and then all the whatever happens as you're growing up, and then the idea that Solomon will take over the business, and Solomon when he reaches 18 is like, screw this, man, I want to do something different,
Yeah.
or I want to blaze my own trail.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I just appreciate the full circle that you've come and that you've gone out and you've done it. You've made your own professional relationships in our industry. And then now you're back. And I think there's, it's kudos to you, because I think it takes a real voyage to get from where you grew up in the restaurant and then to find your way back, but also to make it better. You know what I mean? To keep all the stuff that works working, and then add the other stuff that you've learned over the years and your own touch and feel to it, which is incredible. And kudos.
Thank you. Yeah. But the trick with that is doing it in a surgical way.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right.
I made
Precision.
one of the mistakes I made is we have a dish on the menu called the prawn broker, which is like this. It was it got popular along the way. It uses like chutney and so it's got kind of like almost like it's, because we're certainly I never call ourselves Italian.
Yeah.
Zambri's does a traditional Italian.
Yeah,
food. We're not trying to do traditional anything. We're just
Yeah.
trying to do
Good
Pag's
food.
food at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
But with some solid touch points of like
The staples.
of the Mary DeFlores, sauces and meatballs and bread and things like that. But it's been on the menu for a long time, and I'm looking at it and going, this dish needs something. I really think talking to Suk, we're like, I think like if we put bell peppers in it, it would give some crunch and some acidity and some color into the dish. I think it'd be a better dish with bell peppers in it, right? Not a huge change. And I'm like, well, if people don't want them, they can go, hey, I want it with no bell peppers.
Yeah.
I got hate mail for changing that.
Yeah,
That was their
would.
dish.
Yeah. What
like,
are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was their dish. That was the dish that they love, and it's what.
How dare you ruin it?
How dare I do anything to change a hair on that dish? And I'm like, can't you just order it without the bell peppers? Like, it's not the point.
Yeah, exactly. We're mad that you.
It wasn't your dish
messed
to
with it.
change, and it wasn't my dish to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're still in there, but and you can
Yeah,
still
yeah.
ask for it without. But or the Hemingway short story is our most popular one, which is the bacon cream sauce on and sometimes people are like, oh, can't you change, like you should do a fancier level of tortellini, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna we have features, and I have like a kitchen team that is amazing. And so creative, and so Dan and Daryl are work with Suk, and they're great chefs, and they come up with so much beautiful creative stuff, and we do bring their stuff onto the menu.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we kind of curate the stuff that is core.
Yeah.
We're not going to change the bread. We're not going to change the tomato sauce. We're
Yeah.
not going to change the Hemingway short story. Those are not ours. Those are people have a life history built around that. Pagliacci's is part of their story.
Yeah.
That's where they got proposed to. That's where they broke up. That's where they went on their first date. That's
It's where you were conceived.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many stories in people's lives, so we have to be. So I love bringing in the new stuff, and when we did a massive renovation, about 4 or 5 years ago now, I was so careful to we cut off the face of the bar, and
Put it
use
back.
the same
Yeah.
face of the bar, so that I tried to make it look like you came in and nothing changed.
Yeah.
And just change it. The functionality of the bar
Functionality,
is
yeah.
way, way better than it ever was. And there's air conditioning in the restaurant. And,
Yeah.
and in the kitchen too, which
Oh my God.
Wow.
and the kitchen has so much better flow and space since that. But so it functions better, and there's more things we can do. But I was really careful not to change the core
Vibe.
aspects of it.
Yeah.
So it's the other stuff around that you can play with.
But who comes up with your names for your dishes on the menu?
It's
Because they're great.
Thank you. Yeah. My father did most of them in the day, and these days I'll have staff put in input and get suggestions, but the bulk of the new naming is I do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going to see kind of a generational shift of pop culture icons in the names?
Probably not.
No, you're going to still go back?
Yeah, I've inherited a lot of my father's taste. So, the vast majority of music I listened to was recorded before I was born. The music I play is, from the 20s and 30s, I like old books. I like old movies. So, and I'm actually purposefully like it being a bit obscure. And and for people finding something like an inside joke, and that for example, on our brunch menu we have a Benny that's on a crab cake, which I've called the crab cannon, and it says tastes just the same upside down and backwards, which is a reference to a Bach piece.
Okay.
That if you take the music and flip it up and play it upside down and backwards, it like yeah, it works too, right?
Huh.
So and
hilarious.
it's I mean it's an obscure classical Baroque music reference.
Yeah.
However, the
that
obscurity makes it charming.
yeah,
and so much
maybe
fun.
one person will come in and go like, I get that joke.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like that's rather than just kind of naming it after some pop thing now, or like having the
You want
Spice
people to
Girls
use their
on.
brains,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you wanna-
We're just
that makes
calling
it
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
We're just calling it what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
egg Benny with crab cake. That's
Yeah.
That's how all menus are. But they didn't.
They didn't used
I
to
think
be. Yeah.
There was a lot more character in menus before.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Now it seems to be so sterile and just it's you
Plate's the
buy
lowest common denominator.
Yeah, and it's fancy
Which
because
is-
of the font, or it's
yeah.
interesting because of the font you use in the menu. But you guys, it's about naming it and giving it a personality. So that dish then has a life of its own. So
Yeah.
when you go and add bell peppers
Yeah.
to the dish with a name,
Yeah.
you're actually changing a character in
Yeah.
the restaurant almost, right?
Well, the Lenny Bruce and things. There's nothing sadder than an aging hipster. Like just trying to be an old restaurant and trying to, compete with being like the new young hipster.
Yeah.
It's silly. Like that's not why people are coming to an old restaurant. They want
They want that. They want the
yeah,
nostalgia.
That's
yeah.
it. Like it's one of the we're talking about being crowded and packed and stuff. That's like the one complaint I'm always like, yeah, we're crowded, we're packed and busy, and it's chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
If you want something else, there's
other options.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I can't, I always apologize if someone's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
if they didn't like the food. Those are all very legitimate feelings that people
Yeah.
have that I care about. But I'm not going to, I want it
apologize
to be.
for your
fundamental.
fundamental.
I want it to be this old vibe of a place.
Yeah.
The playlist is still going to be a ton of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to try and turn into, if there's hipness that comes out of that, if there's, it's going to be in that styles go around.
Yeah.
Right. It's always going to come back, right?
We'll just stay where we are.
Yeah. Keep the playlist. It'll be cool in a couple of years.
Yeah. 10 years from now, it'll be all the rage.
Yeah, like when I was 15 years old, I was going to school like dressed in collared shirt and a vest, and I was a geek. And then at some point, I became a hipster, and I didn't change how I dressed. I just
And now you just look
became more.
yeah, like I
vogue.
just kept it just comes around.
Yeah.
So styles come around. We become hip, and then we become old fashioned and stuff. And not to say that our features and stuff we do bring in like new fun things that we can do, but the core stays. It's keeping it solid and steady.
Yeah.
And which you actually have to continue to improve on.
Yeah.
Ingredients
change.
Yes.
The sources of them change.
Yeah.
The quality changes. So
Yeah.
it's actually more work. It's as much work, I would argue, to keep the old menu items still on fire.
Yes.
Right, as it
Yeah.
is to bring in new menu items.
Yeah.
Right?
You
It's
cannot.
actually less lazy in some aspects.
Yeah, you can't remain static. You
Yeah.
know, I a number of years ago, nobody complained about our pasta whatsoever, but I sat down and like tasted every different, like blind tasted every different, like, you know, pasta linguine on the market that I could look at, and you know, till I found the one where I'm like, let's use that one.
Yeah.
Not just clearly based off of my taste.
Yeah.
No one said anything before about it. No one actually said anything after about it.
Yeah.
But I believe that it's, if I have to do that because it's that overall core of going, am I serving the thing that I'm proud of?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get behind this and go, is this the
Yeah.
best version of this dish?
Yeah.
You know, without changing the dish, is it just the best version of it? You know, like
Yeah.
to be the truest. Right?
Well, it's funny how in the industry, this is, you know, kind of as we're going to be wrapping up the show, but I think, you know, we switched our lettuce because we were basically we thought we were throwing out like 30 or 40% of our lettuce because we did this leaf lettuce, Burger Buddy stuff, made these Burger Buddies, and we're like, oh, let's go to shredded lettuce. And then I thought, well, some people like shredded lettuce better. Anyway, so it's a prime example of making a decision, but then not evaluating it after to see if it's still the right decision. So now, fast forward 6 years, 7 years later, we've probably thrown out 3/4 of the lettuce that we purchased just because of you grab some and it doesn't end up on the burger, it ends up on the floor, and you sweep it away. And we did this just to try to make a decent product. But that lettuce has also got more water content in it.
Right.
So it's not a protector. Like the lettuce needs to be a protector from the sauce so the sauce stays pure.
Yeah.
And then somebody mentioned it to me and I just was like a light bulb. I'm like, we're going to now go back to what we did 6 or 7 years ago because I care about making the product as good as possible. And I think that's why you can survive as long as you guys have survived is by doing that. And it's actually going to be a throwback to our original burger when we started.
Right.
And people will be like, oh, you changed the burger. And I don't think anybody is going, I think they're going to notice the improvement where it's funny when you're in the business where you can have a product for years. And I don't think it's affected our sales or anything, but I don't now I see the light. I go, yeah, I ate a burger. I'm like, the lettuce, we got to get rid of this lettuce.
Yeah.
You know, like we got to change it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
you have to do the best thing that you know, and that's how you honor your guests. That's how you go to sleep at night and feel like, oh, I'm doing something good in the world.
Yes.
This is like a wonderful way to make a living.
Yeah.
You know, that my grandmother showered us by feeding us.
Yeah.
So that's what we get to do is we get to feed people. We get to and that food is love aspect, and just like I care about you. Here's food.
Well, I'm doing it in such a professional way. Yeah. And this is going back to what we talked about earlier, just about the level of professionalism and those details and preparing that perfect coffee for everybody, even though, you know, a smaller percentage truly appreciates it. Everybody gets the benefit of it.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's the spirit of hospitality is you don't do it for one person or two people, you do it for everybody.
Yes.
And hopefully you're going to, you know, if 5% of the people appreciate it, like really appreciate it, hopefully maybe you get 7 or 8% or 9% or 10%, but you build that loyal customer where they're going back and it's like, oh, I have to go to Pagliacci's. I have to go see this. I got to have that special dish that hasn't changed in 40 years when it really has changed.
Yeah.
But the essence of it hasn't. Right?
Yes, exactly.
You know, which is the key.
Yeah. And I would say it's a much bigger portion. Notice the care.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a huge amount of people who notice, oh, you care about this. Like, you know, that their server is showing up at the table and engaged and actually cares about their experience.
Yeah.
That they're not just trying to get through their shift and putting whatever on the table and going like, I don't know, I didn't make the food.
Yeah.
Just like, if you got a problem, you'll have to talk to my manager.
Yeah,
but that's
the caring has to come from the top down.
And you have to empower.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, day one, my newest busser, my 16-year-old busser on the floor, has the power to promo a meal.
Yes. Yeah.
Without approval.
Yeah.
If someone's unhappy, they can go, don't worry about it.
I got this.
Yeah. You know, hey, if they give away, you know, 3 bottles of champagne because someone said that they needed a bit more salt.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit down and have a conversation, right? Like, you know, we have a little conversation about like, hey,
it's not quite what your grandma meant.
Yeah. It's like, all right, let's talk about this. You know,
well, you can't have empowerment without coaching.
Yes.
And guidance, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people will say, I empower my people, but they really don't. You know, they micromanage them. They don't really give them the control, or they give them aspects of the power without the authority. You know, and I think that is the key to building good teams. And they're gonna burn their hands. They're gonna make mistakes. But if you got the right person and you're cultivating that culture, you really have, 15 owners working there.
Yes.
Because 15 owners looking at your back, looking after your back, looking after your customers, and creating that awesome culture. That's the only way you can do a business for 45 years.
Yeah.
You have to adapt, but you also have to empower your customers, empower your staff, empower everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge testament to what you're doing. This will be a week later, but you've got your 45th celebration this coming weekend.
I mean, it just happened.
It just happened.
How was it? How successful was it?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It didn't rain. It didn't rain.
It didn't rain at all.
Yeah, all the bands played as scheduled and on time.
And it was packed.
No power issues happened.
No power issues. Everyone got a free T-shirt.
I'm so glad we were all there.
Yeah, we're all there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, everything went off perfectly as planned. Thanks for coming.
How much preparation goes into that? Like we're having our 25th anniversary. Yeah. That's why I'm kind of asking. Like, okay, what has it been a lot of work? Have you what is your?
Yes, but I farmed out most of it.
Yeah.
So Dimitri at MRG, who used to have Atomic and has put on so many amazing
Harpo's. From Harpo days.
Like he'd been in town doing these major events for so long. So that was the first call I made. Right. Really, I started talking about it with him. Yeah. And he's dealing with all of the technical stuff for the staging and making sure that's all there. And then Scott White, who is a magnificent local musician bass player, and a dear friend. I put him as the artistic director. Which may have been giving a chainsaw to a termite, but with the amount of bands that he booked. But but he's conceived of this really wonderful concept of the past, present, and future of musicians that played at Pagliacci's, and he's devised this great plan. And then my management team, with headed up by Josh Miller, is just they're doing huge amounts of work getting everything kind of in line because we're going to have the restaurant open as per usual during this whole thing. Awesome. So I have an incredible team of people who have done a huge amount of work, and I'm doing interviews instead of helping them.
Nice. And you've had some incredible musicians. Like I'm thinking some of the most famous would be Etta James and
James, yeah.
Who else? I mean, that's the big one that I can think
Dr.
of.
John.
Dr. John.
Dr. John,
sure.
Dexter Gordon.
Okay.
Diana Krall had one of her first gigs there.
Right.
Yeah.
She's an island-born artist as well,
from
right?
Nanaimo. Yeah. So Phil Dwyer brought her in,
So was she pretty young in her career?
Yeah, very young, beginning career.
Wow.
Beginning career. She was, a kid and played at PAGS. And
did you meet Elvis Costello there at PAGS as well?
No.
No, okay.
No, I did get to say hi to him. I was at a Nick Cave show, and they were in front of me in line, and I got to say hi to the two of them. And I've always been an Elvis Costello fan too.
Yeah,
so
of course.
That was cool. So lots of we brought Tracy Nelson into town. There's my dad. Really, he always had a sense of he loved some of that R&B stuff. So when he brought Etta James to PAGS the first time when she played our 10th anniversary in Beacon Hill Park.
That's right. I remember that actually. I was there.
But before that, she actually played a concert in the restaurant, and it was a point in her career where she couldn't even get work, and people weren't interested in Etta James.
That's crazy.
I know, right? You think oh my God, you could book Etta James to come and play a room the size of Pagliacci's.
Huh. Yeah, that's incredible.
And Dr. John, these kind of, Dexter Gordon,
icons.
Yeah. So I think in the 80s, people kind of lost the thread of what cool music was.
They're dealing with high interest rates.
Something I don't know that much cocaine just rotted their brains, and they didn't know what good music was anymore. But so there's been a lot of those, great people coming through and Gene Hardy and who's a great saxophone player and Miles Black, fantastic pianists. They're coming in special to play the anniversary this weekend.
Nice.
And Mark Atkinson's going to be playing with his trio.
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
amazing,
which is,
amazing.
which is a dear old friend.
Yeah, he's been playing at Pags forever, right?
Yeah, he's out on Hornby now, but
Okay.
but he back in the day, he was a staple, and I mean, and he's had an incredible career with winning, his last solo guitar album won the best solo folk album of the year, right? A few years ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great stuff, and yeah, we've been very lucky, and I many of the musicians that have played the restaurant over the years, are really my friends.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's so cool.
And I get to play with them.
And you play, right?
I do.
You play well.
I'm playing tonight with my band, the Vanity Project.
Right.
Oh, amazing.
Which I get to,
Is that because it's about you?
Yeah. Well, I was
Or
like,
for you?
when I gave myself a gig, and hired, this is my Vanity Project.
Yeah,
right? This
I
is,
love that. Well, it's a
I
great
get to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the musicians that I play with, Scott White and Richard Moody and Avram McCaggerty, right? They're world-class musicians, and I'm not paying them enough to make it worthwhile to play with me if I was bugging them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I kind of I play rhythm guitar, and I kind of pride myself that I can. I'm allowed. I'm allowed to be there, and I think Mark Atkinson was going to be sitting in with us tonight.
Oh, amazing!
So which is he was my first guitar teacher too. So it's always a bit of extra nerves.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The last time I talked to you, you were going to New York to do a music camp with your daughter.
Montreal.
Was that Montreal? Sorry.
Yeah, I immediately got COVID.
Oh
and
no!
It turned into a total disaster.
Oh no!
I was supposed to be playing bass all week, and I unfortunately got COVID. And
I'm sorry.
The evil COVID.
I got a couple days of touring Montreal and having quite a few of the different smoked meat sandwiches and a Walensky special, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to wrap up. I've got to hit the ferry.
Oh right.
My grandmother's 100th birthday
Happy
celebration.
Birthday.
Is your grandmother? She's 100. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did she pass down her hospitality down the family to you?
No,
as well?
She's very miserable.
Okay, my grandmother.
Hopefully, my grandmother's not listening to this or won't listen to this.
She's not.
No, she's going out. She's been miserable a good part of her life. It's too bad. Like, she's Irish, and she has this zest for. She has this enthusiasm, I guess, in certain aspects, but yeah, she's a little. Yeah, she's. I don't know what she's.
Well, she's
consistent.
My grandmother was Lebanese, and she reminds me, like, from what you've told me about yours in terms of hospitality. She was always like, "Eat, it's good for you."
Yeah,
just like nonstop, like eat. Just
got that.
Just how she showed her.
My
kids
mother-in-law on the Zambri side is that was hospitable.
Yeah,
my grandmother was like, she was less than hospitable, but I can't wait to see her. I haven't seen her in a while. It'll be nice to see her. 100 years is a huge achievement, so I'm going to often do that.
Well, but
Solomon, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with your 45th anniversary.
I'm glad it went so well.
I want to have you back on because we missed a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe we do that.
You talk about your own business, like Solomon's.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I want to get you on. I also want to talk to you just politically, some stuff that has happened, and I think we still have time to do that. Maybe we do that before the U.S. election, and we can do a little bit more of a political kind of talk.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Let's all get in trouble.
We'll get in trouble, and it's interesting, and there's a lot of dovetails with society, but also hospitality, because it's literally, people are lighting themselves on fire about things that are ridiculous, and also assuming things that aren't true. And in this day and age, like as a group, especially who are looking to provide good hospitality, we should remember it's really about the food. It's really about the people and those human connections, and throw out the biases and all the BS. So I think
hospitality is making strangers feel welcome and cared for.
Yes,
that's
of all stripes.
Yes, and it's inclusive. And they used to have in bars, when before Prohibition, like all nations welcome but Carrie. Because Carrie Nation was a abolitionist who would come into bars and smash them with a hatchet. So all nations welcome but Carrie, right? It's hospitality should be inclusive and about bringing people from all walks of life together.
Well, you certainly encapsulate that. Thanks for
Thanks,
sharing.
Solomon. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Awesome to see you. Sam,
Kaylin.
as usual,
It was a pleasure.
it was a pleasure. Remember to be kind.
Yeah, you be real nice, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.